Hello, my name is Samar. I also go by Sam or First Time Planner. Any of those you want to call me, you can. This will be a get ready with me story time esque video. I never really fully planned these out, but I said that I was gonna do a story time for something that I had mentioned in a previous video. And yeah, I'm just gonna start, I guess, because I don't really know what to say. Some of the items that I'll be using are new, not too many actually. Actually, never mind, because only one thing will be new because one of the items was, this is my Tony Moly lip balm. One of the items was gonna be my new Sephora concealer because I had said in my travel makeup bag like vlog video, which if I remember I'll have, I already can't speak, oh my god. Oh yeah, this is my, somehow this is not done, even though this has been like on its last leg for like 2 or 3 weeks now. More keeps coming out every time I use it, but yeah, I was saying that that concealer was already too dark for me, so I got another one in one like similar undertone but like a shade down. And luckily it was not too light for me. It actually matches me perfectly. I just like tried it while I was doing my shower makeup one night. I haven't worn it out yet, although I'm assuming it's like the same as the other one, just a different formula. But yeah, I like somehow already don't know where I put it, which is kind of crazy because that was just a few days ago. So I'll be using something else in place of that, but yeah, I'll just be using one new item and everything else is either has been in my collection for a while or it's something that I'm desperately trying to pan by the end of the year, which we only have 9 days, no, 10 days more in the year. Since I'm going to just use an eyeshadow stick today, I'm gonna start with my face. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm gonna start with my face makeup and I'm just gonna use like pretty much the same thing, at least for primer, that I've been using since I finished my the primer that I was panning in my year-long project pan. This is my e.l.f. poreless face primer and I use 2 pumps and I just put it everywhere, and then I'm gonna use a glowy sunscreen on top. But basically the story goes, so as you know, I was in Minnesota. That's where my travel bag video came from. But basically I'm gonna actually roll up my sleeves because this, I always end up getting makeup everywhere. So going back from Minnesota, if you watched the vlog, you would have seen I got stranded in Denver. So what had happened was, and this is the Suntouchable Wolo in the shade Sunbeam, but I was supposed to leave through like the Twin Cities airport on Monday night, or like Monday, my voice is already shaking, Monday evening, afternoon. My flight was at like 6, so Monday evening, and I was gonna catch a connecting flight in Denver because I was flying Southwest because for some reason Sun Country, which is, oh, I always take this down my neck too. Sorry, I was talking and like pressing on my throat at the same time. I always take this down my neck as well because I put my skincare on my neck too, and if I'm using actives I have to use sunscreen there, and I'm currently using vitamin C. But anyway, yeah, I was using Southwest Airlines because I usually use Sun Country when I go to Minnesota because it's much cheaper and it's like always a direct flight. But Sun Country for some reason only flies from pretty much anywhere outside of the Midwest into Minneapolis like 3 days a week. And they didn't have any flights on the days that I needed, so I was using Southwest instead. So I was going to have a connecting flight in Denver, and it was going to be the last flight out of Denver to where I live, which is Southern California. Basically what had happened was, it was like the dumbest reason ever. I'm like still very annoyed about it. Like maybe if someone knows the exact technical reason, you can tell me, because I honestly think it was ridiculous. But basically the plane that came in that we were going to board, everything seemed fine. I'm gonna use my e.l.f. color corrector. This is the Camo color corrector in the shade peach. And I actually was watching an It's Just Steph video recently, and she said that these were really easy to get through, so I potentially might try to pan mine. We'll see what happens, I don't know. But yeah, they like, nothing seemed like out of the ordinary. The flight was delayed. We were already annoyed, and I got to the airport, or to the gate, 2 hours before the flight took off because the airport was deserted. So I got there really early. So I'd already been waiting like 3.5, 4 hours for this flight. And then finally, like, the first half of passengers had already boarded the flight. If you can hear that, that's Rosie eating her kibble. All of a sudden, there was like, they had stopped boarding passengers. We were all kind of standing out there for like 15-20 minutes solid, and then we hear the flight attendant on the like PA system or whatever saying, oh yeah, there's like sit back down if you're in line waiting to board. There's a broken windshield wiper on the airplane, so we're having engineers come out to fix it. They should be here in like 15 minutes. And at this point we were already, well, I was already worried because my connecting flight only had like an hour between when I landed in Denver to when my next flight took off. So I was already worried. I was like, we really need to hurry this along. Like, we're already delayed by half an hour. We really don't need to be making this worse. And then finally, the engineers were on that plane for so long. I was like, they're definitely just gearing up to give us bad news. And then of course the flight attendant was like, yeah, so the engineers did everything they could and they can't fix the windshield wiper, so we can't use this plane. Okay, please, like, this is where I was actually really mad, because if you understand like why they couldn't fix a windshield wiper, please let me know, because that seems like a really terrible thing not to be able to fix. It's not like the engine was broken and they like put all of the like aircraft engineers together and they couldn't figure out what was going. No, it was a windshield wiper. Why couldn't they just take it off and pop a new one on? Was it really something with the mechanics of the airplane that was making the windshield wiper not work? I really don't know, because they didn't explain anything to us. They were just like, yeah, they tried and they can't fix it, so you're not getting on this plane. It actually did a really good job for a color corrector. It didn't cover absolutely everything, but it's not meant to be a full coverage concealer. For correcting, that worked very well. I need to use this more often. I think I've only used this once before. And before I put on my foundation, I think I'm just gonna set that a tiny bit. I have like extra powder on my brush from yesterday, so I'm just gonna like try to set the color corrector a bit so that when I am blending out my foundation on top, it's not moving it around. Oh, and the foundation that I'm gonna use is just this sample of the e.l.f. What is this? I bought a full size, but it's the e.l.f. Halo Glow Skin Tint. It's like a sunscreen skin tint, and I also ended up getting like, I didn't ask for this, I just got a like sample pack of all, not all of the shades, but like the entire range of shades. And this is the one that, at least in the summer, because I own shade 7, this is shade 7, so this might be too dark for me, but because it's actually a very sheer skin tint, I think I can get away with it today. And I don't know if I'm gonna put the entire thing on. We'll just see how much is actually in here. But so yeah, they were like, we're gonna have to wait for the next flight that's coming in that doesn't come in until like 9 something p.m. So they were like, yeah, if you have a connecting flight, you're not gonna make it. The thing is, probably like 60% of us were catching a connecting flight, because other than mine, there were 2 other destinations that people were on that plane for. So none of us were going to make our destinations, because we were all catching like the last flight out of Denver to each of our unless you were like actually going to Denver, you were not going to get where you were supposed to be, because we were missing our last flights out. So they were like, if you have a connection, you can choose, like, you have 2 options. You can either like stay here overnight, or you can fly to Denver on that last plane that's coming in and stay in Denver overnight. We'll give you hotel vouchers for either one you pick. I guess I'm just gonna put this on with my finger. It's pretty liquidy, so I could probably like, actually no, that's too slow. Okay, But you know what? I did not need to put on that like sunscreen because this is already glowy and it has sunscreen in it. But oh well. Just extra sunscreen for me, I guess. And I'll probably only use half of this because this is already a lot. I was like, this really cannot be happening because I had already taken 2 days off of work and I'm a contractor, so I don't get paid for the days that I don't work, and I don't get holiday or sick time or vacation or anything like that. So I was already missing like a big chunk of my paycheck. And then also my cats had already been alone for 4 days straight, and I had left them with like a little bit of extra food and water. But the thing is, even though I had left them with extra, I always I do this to myself where I get paranoid because most of their water is in their water fountain, and I do leave like bowls of water out just in case the power ever goes out while I'm out of town, which has happened before. And like if the fountain or like the heating and cooling turns off, I always like prepare for that. But I only left like 2 bowls of water, 2 full bowls of water for them. So I was thinking, oh my god, what if like somehow the very first day the power went out and like these entire 4 days they've just been relying on like those 2 bowls of water this whole time. Or like what if something happened and I've been gone for 4 days and like no one else has a key to my apartment at the moment. So I was just really freaking out. And then like also I didn't want to not get paid for an entire other day, but I was really mostly stressing about my cats. So like my head was reeling and I was really scared, and I was like very just annoyed at Southwest because they always do this. And I'm just gonna set that with my Maybelline Superstay, which I do not have a lot left of. I'm so excited. I'm trying to finish this by the 23rd. It's currently the 21st. Because this is in the office project pan and we update on the 23rd, or we're supposed to. And I honestly feel like I probably could do that. If I have today, tomorrow, and then the day of the 23rd, I can definitely finish this. So it took me probably like half an hour to finally get up to, because like literally, as I said, 2/3 about of the plane was catching a connecting flight. So we were all trying to talk to a flight attendant because they had to give us the like one by one, they had to go through each of the passengers and give us our like hotels if we wanted one. They had to figure out which flights we were going to catch, etc, etc. So it took me like half an hour to, oh no, wait, I'm gonna do a cream blush. Okay, this is the Bite Beauty one in the shade Ginger Malt, which is in my problem area project pan. I'm really trying to finish this. And then the flight attendants were just being like very like, I'm sorry, I know this is not very sensitive, but also the flight attendants were not being very nice to us at all. Like they weren't apologizing, they were not trying to like really help us, they weren't wanting to answer our questions. They were like, oh, just like ask later, blah blah blah. They were just, all of them, being very unhelpful and not sympathetic to us, because a lot of us like we just needed to get home and we were not going to be able to do that. But there was one lady who was especially just like actually being rude, and she was just really not helping the situation. So when I finally got up to talk to a flight attendant at the desk, it was like one flight attendant at the computer screen and another one at the other one on the other side of the desk, and then this third flight attendant who was like the really crappy rude one, she was kind of just sitting behind them, kind of like watching them do whatever they were doing. I don't know why she was just standing there. But when I got up to my flight attendant, she was like, okay, so what would you rather do? Do you want to get on this flight to Denver and wait overnight there, or do you want to wait overnight here? Do you know, hotel voucher for either one, blah blah blah. And so I like honestly had no idea what to do, because I was like, well, technically if I get on this flight to Denver, I can get there faster, like back home, because I can just catch like the earliest flight from Denver. So I technically get home like an hour or two faster than if I stay here overnight. But if I stay in Minneapolis overnight, then I'll be able to just like go back to my dad and stepmom's house and actually sleep in, you know, like a real bed. I don't want to have to be in a hotel. And I won't have my luggage with me because for those like overnight connecting flights, you don't get your luggage. It just goes straight to the destination. So I was like, you know, trying to think of what I wanted to do after the flight attendant told me all my options. And they like were really not trying to give me even 10 seconds to think about it. The flight attendant who was like just sitting behind the two, she was like, come on, make your, she literally was like, come on, make your decision. It's either this or this. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll just like stay overnight here. It was honestly so rude. Like I'm getting mad just thinking about it. So the flight attendant who was on the computer like typed everything in, like chose which flight I was gonna do, and then she was like, okay, yeah, go pick up your luggage at baggage claim. It'll be there waiting for you. And then as soon as the flight attendant finished like finalizing everything, the flight attendant in the back was like, oh, the better option would have been to just go to Denver and wait it out there overnight and then get to your destination because we're gonna have storms coming in and they might like ground all the flights for the next few days. And I was thinking, first of all, why are you kind of like wishing that on us? But second, why wouldn't you say that before she did everything? I was so pissed off. And then I started panicking because I was like, because we were planning on like, Minnesota was actually planning on getting like mild blizzards, but you never really know. And it was gonna be for like a full day or two. So I was thinking, well, I really don't know when the next flight I'll be able to take will be, especially if like, who knows how long it'll take for the storms to clear if they are bad enough where they have to ground the flights, and often they do. And then who knows like if I'll be able to get a flight that has any spots on it, since they're like, if they're canceling everything, everyone is going to try to be getting on a new flight. So now I'm panicking and I'm just really mad and annoyed. And like my dad is already on his way to pick me up because I was telling him like what happened. And then I finally like grab my bag and get in the car and I'm just telling him about it. And I was like, oh yeah, they were saying this and like maybe the flights will be grounded. And then I was like, do you think that's actually gonna happen? And he was like, no, that's actually like a really good possibility that might happen. I'm just gonna use the bronzer and contour from my Pan That Face palette. But now I'm like really panicking because I was like, oh my god, like I really chose incorrectly. Like, not that it was even my fault, it was really the flight attendant's fault, to be quite honest. But I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, I need to get home, not just for the fact that I'm gonna lose an entire week's worth of a paycheck, but which, by the way, I live pretty much paycheck to paycheck, so that would be really bad. But my cats, like if something happened to my cats, I honestly don't even know what I would do with myself. Like they're really, like I have friends, but they're kind of like really the thing that keeps me going. Like I pretty much like live for my cats. They got me through everything. So I was panicking like to the point where I was having a panic attack, and my dad was like, yeah, just like call them and like I'm gonna take you back to the airport, call them to try to get on that flight to Denver that you were gonna be on. So he's like making a Yui. Of course we like get stopped because all of a sudden randomly, even though there's like never a train there, a train passes by. So we get stuck behind this light because a train is passing, and I'm on the phone with customer service trying to tell him what happened. He's like, it's honestly not really his fault because it's a very confusing situation because I was trying to explain everything to him. And finally, once he understood what was happening, he was like, oh yeah, like I can't do that. Like for some reason the website isn't letting me do it online. You would have to do it in person at the airport. And I was thinking that is such a dumb system. But anyway, I was like, okay, like I'm really hoping someone's still gonna be there when I get to the airport because like the last flights were leaving, so no one was still at like the check-in counters. Then I'm gonna use my Sunlighter from Essence. This is just like the slightly deeper, warmer highlighter from Essence, like the pure nude one. So I get to the airport and my dad is like, honestly, bless him, he was being so supportive. And I like, when I have like an anxiety, I can't even talk, an anxiety attack or a panic attack. I'm like really not a pleasant person, so I was probably being like very short with him, but he was being really nice and supportive. So thank you. So if you're watching this, Dad, thank you for like being nice to me and patient with me. But he like left the car at the pickup area. He got out. He was like, no, I'm coming with you, because I think he kind of just wanted to be there so I wasn't alone and people weren't gonna try to like brush me off and take advantage of me. So I'm like, I'm still on the phone with a customer service agent because I was like, don't hang up on me until I figure this out. I didn't yell at him, but I was basically like, stay with me because I'm panicking. I'm gonna spray some of my setting spray that I'm keeping in this mini Tarte LifeLock bottle because it's such a good bottle. The sprayer on here is so good. But this is just the e.l.f. setting spray, and I'm gonna really douse my face because the powder foundation, I mean it's powder foundation, and the skin tint together look pretty cakey, to be honest. Oh no, I just used what was left in here. Okay, moving on. So I'm still on the phone with this agent, and I was like, no one's here because like all the flights are gone, so there's literally no flight attendant in this area. And he was like, go to the baggage claim office. So I had to run all the way to baggage claim, which is on the other side of the terminal. And I'm gonna use, this is my new product that I'm using. This is the Fenty Beauty. This one is called the Shadow Sticks Diamond. So it's like different from her regular shadow sticks. These are supposed to be like extra sparkly, and maybe I'll do a little swatch. But this is what it looks like. It is so pretty. I bought all three. This one is the shade, it's like the brown one. It's called Champion, but I think there's like a little apostrophe, I think because it's like a champagne shade, like champ Ian. So I'm just gonna put this all over both of my eyes, but we finally like get to the baggage claim office, and I'm like just like rambling. I'm out of breath, and I'm also at the same time trying to ramble off this entire story because I managed to find a Southwest agent, and I'm like telling him the entire story all over again, and I'm like, can you help me, like can you put me on this flight? And so he was like, I can't do that, but let me see if like someone who like a flight attendant for the flight is still up there and can help you. They would have to come down here, so it depends on if they're willing to do that, which I thought was crazy. I was like, if they can, then they should. But anyway, he like got on his walkie-talkie, and honestly I think because like when I looked behind me, my dad was kind of just like, my dad's not a mean person, but I think he was giving him a bit of a stern face to kind of like make sure he did it, which is good because, you know, like sometimes if people think they can kind of just like take advantage of you or like not put in the effort because they think you're not going to do anything about it, oftentimes they will. So he was on his walkie-talkie trying to talk to the people at the gate, and then he was like, okay, yeah, they said they can do it, so we're just gonna have someone come down and then like he's gonna get that done for you. And I was like, is he actually coming down? Because I have had people lie about that just so they can like, I can get out of their face. And once I ended this call and once I like left this baggage claim office, like if no one else came down, there was going to be nothing that I could do about it. So he was like, you know, that's what he said, so you're just gonna have to trust it and like go wait over there. I go all the way back to the other side of the terminal, and with my luggage still, I'm still holding my luggage, and the guy is actually there, thank goodness. So this is what that shadow was looking like. It's like, I like it, it's pretty. It definitely is more high impact than her other shadow sticks. However, it's less impact than these Half Magic ones. I used these yesterday. Oh my gosh, these are so nice. I'm just gonna line my eyes with, where is it? Okay, this one, this is Whiskey. Yeah, Whiskey from Urban Decay. This is just like the softer brown. So I'm just gonna line all of my eyes with this. But he like basically kind of checks me in, and he like redoes all my boarding passes, and he like does my hotel voucher and everything, and he was like, basically they don't really know where they're gonna put me, they just like wherever there's room they put you. And then right before I leave, on the back of my ticket, he writes a phone number, and he was like, I should have known, but I didn't, like, I was already so flustered and stressed out. But on the back of the voucher, he writes a number, and he's like, oh, so like I don't really know how the shuttles work, but like just in case they don't give you any information at the next airport in Denver, call this number for the shuttle to pick you up. And I was like, okay, sure. So I like eventually finally get on that plane to Denver. This is so crazy. By the time we land, it's like 10:30 p.m. I can't exactly remember, but the Denver airport is huge. I think it's like the biggest airport in the United States. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it takes me like almost half an hour just to get where the shuttles are supposed to be. Like, I'm not even getting my bags. It takes me so long to get there because you have to like go through the terminal, then you have to get on a shuttle to literally the other side of the airport. Like, I was in Terminal C, and then you have to go through B, then A, then to a separate part of the airport where baggage claim and shuttles are. So it takes me almost half an hour to get there, and by the time it's like 11, so obviously, because of course no one is there to like tell us what we're supposed to do, and I can't really find anyone who was on my plane to like ask around. So if you can hear, my neighbors are vacuuming upstairs. I'm kind of like looking around, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just call this number and see if they can tell me what to do. So I call the phone number for the shuttle that flight attendant put on. Oh, also, like, I have to ask around to see if my bags are gonna be there, because the flight attendant was like, when you get to Denver, ask them whether or not they have your luggage, because we don't know if it is actually going straight home or if it's just going to be in baggage claim in Denver, which is also crazy. But I'm calling this phone number to see where the shuttle is, or like how long it's gonna take to get there. And this flight attendant gave me the wrong number, because I end up calling some random construction company, and the guy on the phone is confused as well. I have to go back in and find, again, like another baggage claim representative from Southwest, and I'm like, hi. And I had already gone up to them to see where my baggage was, and they were like talking to me as if I was stupid, when I was literally like, yeah, they told me to ask because they don't know. So I was already beefing a little bit with these people. On top of that, I was mad at Southwest in general. Now I'm gonna do my brows, so I'm just gonna like brush through them with this side of the e.l.f. brow wax and then fill them in with a pencil. But I was like, hey, they gave me the wrong phone number to call. Do you know like anything about the shuttle, where I'm supposed to go? And so they like search. I gave them my like hotel voucher thing, which I guess like it didn't have any sort of contact information, but it had like, I guess, the name of the general place that I was going to. So they gave me the phone number for that, and I call them, and they're like, it's like 11 at this point. And I call them, and they were like, oh yeah, we're sending a shuttle to this location at 11. And I'm like, well, it's 11 now, so what am I gonna do? And he was like, oh yeah, the next one is coming in 30 minutes. And I was like, you want me to wait outside for half an hour? Okay, that's really weird. Like, I didn't say this. I was very nice to the representative, but I was just thinking, that's actually crazy and ridiculous that, like, because it's winter in Colorado and you want us all to wait outside in the shuttle area for half an hour when like none of us were even prepared to do this anyway. This is like a really horrible system. So we're just waiting, but then like I see the shuttle pulling out, and I'm like running to catch it, because I used to take the bus, so I'm used to running for like to catch my transportation. I'm not too embarrassed to run. And then the shuttle lady stops, but she was like, oh no, you can't get on, it's full. So I was thinking, why did you stop? But she was like, the next one will be here in 15 minutes. So I'm like, oh, okay, so 15 minutes, not half an hour. I was like, are you, sorry, I don't know what my not my upstairs neighbors, but my across neighbors. I don't know what they're doing. But I was like, are you sure? Because the guy told me half an hour. She was like, yeah, 15 minutes. Like, she was getting mad at me. We were all, and I told like all the people who were waiting for the same shuttle around me. And I was like, okay, well, she said 15 minutes, but the guy on the phone said half an hour, so I'm not sure. So we're just all waiting out there. Of course, it's not actually 15 minutes, like she said, it is half an hour. But the thing is, the shuttle that they sent at 11:30 only held 10 people, and we all, for whatever reason, we all have to sit down. We're not allowed to like stand up and hold the bar. So they only let 10 of us. Mind you, there are about 50 of us that were originally waiting for the shuttle. So there are a lot of us that have just been waiting for like half an hour, an hour this whole time to catch the shuttle that's only taking 10 people at a time. So we're like, you know, very rightly so, getting angry because why would you send a tiny shuttle and people can't even stand? So they just keep saying, okay, just wait for the next shuttle, wait for the next shuttle. And we're trying to call, or I'm trying to call the hotel, and they've stopped answering us because they just don't want to hear it from us. They really do not care. They're not trying to help us at all or give us advice on what to do, even though I'm pretty sure they do this every single day. They're just not answering our calls anymore. So I go back into the terminal and I find the Southwest agent and I'm like, hey, this is the situation that's happening. We need help because we're freezing to death out there waiting for something that we were told was going to be provided. And the flight attendants do not care. They just absolutely do not care. They're like, we'll just try calling. And I'm like, no, they're not answering, so you need to call. Like, do your job and help us. I was so angry at this point. I wasn't yelling, but I was like, no, you need to actually do your job. Like, I'm not taking no for an answer. So she calls. Guess what? They answered like on the first ring because they're like affiliated with Southwest, so they know their number and they're gonna answer them. And she's on the phone with them and she's like telling them some like random story because she was not listening to me when I was telling her what was happening. So I'm like, well, as she's on the phone, I'm telling her what is exactly happening so she can tell him on the phone. And then she hangs up and she's like, oh, he said like to call them and they'll call you an Uber. And I'm thinking, okay, well, they just weren't answering, but whatever, that's what she said. So I go back outside to tell everyone else who's waiting because there's still like, I don't know, there's still probably like 20 of us waiting, and everyone else is like, oh yeah, we've been trying to call them but they're not answering us. And I'm like, okay, so they're still not answering our call. So I try calling them one more time and of course they're not answering, and the next shuttle comes and it only takes 10 people, and at this point it's midnight, and the shuttle driver is like, okay, that's the last shuttle of the day. And there are about a dozen of us left and we're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean there's no more shuttles? We're still sitting here waiting to get to the hotel because we don't even know where this place is, by the way. They didn't put any sort of like phone number or address on the hotel voucher, so we can't even get there if we tried. I'm gonna put my Maybelline Firework mascara on, and please don't look at my crazy face I'm gonna be making while I do this. But basically, that's when I kind of just lose it and I go back in there. I'm like storming back in there because I was like, no, they're gonna fix this some way, somehow. Like, we're all outside getting sick. We've been through it today and now you're putting us through something else. So I go in there, of course, like while I was out there, that flight attendant who was being extremely rude, surprise, surprise, she's trying to run away and she sees me and she like starts darting the other direction, but I start running. I do not care. I start running with my little purse in my tote bag and I'm like, hey, no, you need to help me because this is ridiculous. The last shuttle just left and now they're saying there's no more, and we're really like, we have nothing else. We can't do anything. We need to get to our hotel. And she's like, well, like, I don't know what you want me to do about it. And I'm like, fix it, call someone. So she like goes to her supervisor's office and she's like, oh, hey, like this person needs your help. And then she just leaves. She doesn't even tell her what's going on. So I have to explain this entire story all over again to this lady's supervisor. And this lady's supervisor is not trying to help us either. She's like, okay, well, you know, like if like, it's like the hotel's responsibility. We can't really do anything about it. And I'm like, no. At this point, I'm not taking no for an answer. Have you ever seen that Denzel video that's like, I'm leaving here with something? I'm like, no, you are going to do something for me, because we were told by Southwest that we were going to have these accommodations, and we've been sitting out here for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and no one has been helping us. Like, you are going to figure this out. And then she was like, oh, did you have like a hotel voucher? And I'm like, yes, that's what I've been saying this whole time. She was like, oh, okay, like if you had a hotel voucher, that's different. And I'm thinking, wait, hold on. So I've been telling you this whole time and you were just like disregarding what I was saying. And also, first of all, I will say, just because you don't have a legal obligation to help passengers doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. Like, I've worked in so many different jobs, customer service and non-customer service jobs. If someone is asking for your help, wouldn't you at least try to even think of some possible solution or point them in some direction where they can get some help, especially if it's a situation that is like as dire as this? Wouldn't you even try? But no, this was like by Southwest. They gave us these vouchers and they promised us these specific accommodations, and they were not delivering. And you mean to tell me, I've told you about 3 times now that we have this voucher for this hotel and we're waiting for this shuttle, and you have not been listening and you were just trying to blow me off? No, that's so unacceptable. So finally she was like, okay, yeah, like let me just call my manager. I'm like thinking, can no one do anything around here? I'm so heated at this point. I'm even getting angry thinking about it. Sorry, I had to pause to check the time. But she like takes forever calling her manager. And then of course, as she's on the phone, because like I said, she was not listening the first time, again, I have to retell her exactly what to tell her manager is going on. So basically, finally, after like a few minutes on the phone, she's like, okay, yeah, so what he said to do is I'm gonna get the names and phone numbers of everyone who's still out there, and then we'll call you an Uber that you guys can share together. I'm thinking, this is so ridiculous, but whatever. By the time I get back out there, because I've been in here for about 10 minutes now, I think some people have just like called Ubers and gone somewhere, because we were like so freezing cold that they just like didn't want to be out in the cold anymore. So they just left. So there was about 6 of us left, including me. So she goes out there with me and she's like, yeah, take me to where you guys are, and then I'll write your guys' name down, and then I'll go back in and call you an Uber. So I'm like, okay, and I bring her out. But then as we're walking out there, everyone else, at this point, everyone knows me now, because I've been like going back and forth about half a dozen times now trying to get something done. So everyone like sees me and they're like, oh, hey, like this other shuttle driver saw us and like he's done for the night. So he offered to just he knows where we're going, and he offered to take us there. So yeah, we're all just gonna get in the shuttle instead of like waiting for an Uber, which is very fair, because even though like they would have paid for the Uber, we would have had to wait longer. And at that point, we were all so cold and tired. We didn't want to have to wait a second longer. So, the supervisor, excuse my language, but of course the supervisor just F's off, so she doesn't have to be involved in that anymore. Absolutely no accountability. So she just leaves, and we all get in this shuttle, and the guy takes us. He's so nice, but the shuttle ride takes us, I'm not even kidding, probably like 20 to 25 minutes, because the hotel we were going to, it was not even in the same city. It was not in Denver. Like, I was like, it was in Aurora. They spent like absolutely no money on us. They weren't trying to get us like a decent hotel or even anything close to the airport. They were not trying to like pay for shuttles to get us all there. The shuttle driver was really nice, and we finally get to the hotel, and at this point it's like 1 a.m. Guess what? By the time we got there, the hotel was still checking people in, because that's how slow they were. At that point, it was probably only one person checking people in because it was so late. But I was like, how is this such a bad system? So we're still having to wait in line to even be checked into the hotel. I'm gonna take this opportunity to actually, for the second time, try my One Size Powder Melt setting spray because yeah, I really do need something that's gonna make this look a little bit better. Also, because we wanted to tip the shuttle driver, but all of a sudden no one had any cash on them, so I end up giving the tip to the shuttle driver. So I end up spending, also one other person gave a little bit of a tip, but I gave the shuttle driver 20 bucks and I was like, of course this is coming out of my pocket. But I didn't want him to go home with nothing because he literally took like nearly an hour out of his day for us. I go in line last because I'm like, at that point, whatever, I'm so mad. It wouldn't even make me happier to be the first in line. So I'm just kind of like sitting there and I hear people as they're being checked in, they were like, oh, here's my food voucher. And I'm like, what? Apparently, as the flight attendants were giving us the hotel vouchers, they were also supposed to give us a meal voucher, either by text or email. The flight attendant who gave me my voucher did not give me one. So this whole time I was thinking, oh, just none of us are getting meal vouchers. Southwest sucks, which Southwest does suck. But no, it was literally just me because, and at this point I'm starting to think like, did this flight attendant do it on purpose because I like made him go all the way back down? Because not only did he not give me a meal voucher, but he got the number for the shuttle wrong. Like it was very, very wrong. It wasn't even the correct area code. He just put some random number. Was he trying to sabotage me? I really don't know. But anyway, I was like too upset to eat anyway. So I was like, I was very hungry, but I was too upset to even eat. So I was like, and the hotel probably, like based on their conditions and what they had put us through, it probably was going to be very, very bad food anyway. So I was just like, whatever. Okay, let's try this setting spray. That was a very fine mist. Like I could barely even feel it. Oh, it's definitely on my mirror, but I could barely feel it on my skin. So yeah, I didn't get a meal voucher, but I was just like, you know what? Let me just go up to my room, get like maybe a few hours of sleep because my flight was at, I like just chose the earliest flight out of Denver that I possibly could, which is at like 7 a.m. So I was like, maybe I can sleep for like 4 hours. I don't know. And I'm just gonna wipe this off of my lips and then put on my lip gloss. But I finally get checked in and then the guy at the check-in counter was like, okay, do you want to take the shuttle back to the airport? And I was like, oh yeah, I would. And he was like, okay, it's gonna be coming either at 4:12 a.m. or 7:12 a.m. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you're telling me those are the only two options to get a shuttle back to the airport, which is like nearly half an hour away. So because my flight is at 7, I have to take the 4:12 shuttle. So I was like, I'm basically only gonna have like less than 3 hours between checking into this hotel and having to check out. So I was like, yeah, just give me the 4:12 shuttle, I guess. I don't even really know. And I get up to the room. It's obviously like, as you saw if you watched the travel makeup bag vlog, it was not a nice hotel room. It basically had a bed, a desk with a chair that was like all torn up and ratty and stained, and then it had like, it didn't even have a closet. It had those shelves that were connected to the bathroom area, and then they didn't even give you like mini toiletries. They just had like everything in those like soap dispensers that were connected to the shower. So I didn't even get any like little tiny freebies, which I love. So it was just like a terrible experience, and I was just sitting in there for like 2.5 hours or so, killing time because I like could not go to sleep, because if I tried going to sleep, I'd probably sleep for like half an hour, and that wouldn't even be worth it to change out of like into my pajamas. I brought a set of clothes that could like double as pajamas, which is what I was wearing in that last section of the vlog. I was like, it's not even worth it. I wouldn't be surprised if this hotel has bed bugs, so it's not even worth it to sit down on this bed. I put a towel over the chair and sat on the chair the whole time. But yeah, so I was just killing time, did my makeup, and a few hours later, I like checked out of the hotel, which is barely saying anything because I literally didn't do anything except I used a hand towel and a body towel to cover the chair, and I used like 4 squares of toilet paper. And then when I went down to check out, I was trying to give my key to the like check-in guy, and he was like, oh, our system like doesn't come up until this time, so just leave the key there, it's whatever. And I was like, you're not even gonna actually check me out. Mind you, they had my credit card on file for like whatever reason, who knows why they had to put our credit cards on file, because they didn't have a snack bar or literally anything anyway. So I was like, if you don't properly check me out and I get charged for something, oh my god, I will actually lose it on you. I didn't say that, but I kind of gave him a look that made sure he knew. It's just not working with just using a brow pencil, especially when my eyebrows are not freshly done. I need a brow pen, so I might purchase one right before the end of the year, because spoiler, I might do a low buy or a no buy next year. But this is the completed look. I'm just meeting a friend for lunch and then that's it. But that is the story of how I got stranded in Denver in the middle of the night. Technically, I got stranded on a deserted island because the like waiting area where we were waiting for the shuttles was like, we had literally different islands, as they called them, to wait on, and no one was coming. So it was actually a stranded island in the middle of Denver. I just get such great unique experiences, don't I? So yeah, that was a horrible experience. I will never ever fly Southwest again. I really don't. Like, every experience I've had with Southwest since the pandemic started, their like entire thing changed after the pandemic. Like, they used to be my favorite airline and now they're the absolute worst. Every experience I've had with them since the pandemic has been absolutely awful. So I will not be flying with them again. Yeah, 0 out of 10. But that is my little story. Sorry it had to be so bleak. Sorry I was in such a bad mood. But that's why it's taken me so long to actually film it, because I've also been going through a lot and just thinking about this while I was going through stuff, which I'm still going through, but like even just a few days ago, it would have like sent me into a spiral. So sorry this took so long. Sorry the video's so long, but that is it for this story. I will see you in my next video, and until then, I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and whenever I post this, maybe it'll still be the holidays. So happy holidays. Bye.